Thank you everybody for joining. This is Deepak Raj, Chief Coach of Yoska, and also Race Director for IRONMAN Goa. So first of all, thank you for sending in all your questions and taking the time. Really looking forward to spending this time to answer all your questions. Given there's been a bunch of questions, I might have to just break this down into a few sessions. I'll see how much I can take care of it today, and I'll be also subsequently posting not only this video, but also the other videos with respect to those questions. Let me just start out by telling you that the IRONMAN 70.3 Goa, the race is on. It's much later in the year in November. So the race as of now, that date holds. And the registration is opening on Tuesday. So definitely put the word out there and keep an eye out. And we're looking forward to you and the rest of the folks signing up and being part of the second event. Let's get into the question straight away. Nitya has a question on, should we be looking to do longer, more frequent, intensive strength training sessions, given there are not going to be too many races at this point of time, given what's happening. I think first thing is there's no reason to reduce durations if you do have the access to train indoors, especially on the bike part of it. If the swimming pools are closed, I can understand that we will have to wait until they're reopened. But I would definitely encourage you all to make available whatever facilities you have. If it's an indoor treadmill, if it's an indoor bike, and just stay focused on that. If you don't have any of those, then yes, I think definitely spending a bit more time at home, just using your body weight and using those workouts. Bumping them up, doing a few more circuits out of it instead of, if you're doing 3 sets of it, maybe just add more and slowly build it on. That's very important. That should do. What should continue? This follow-up question was on daily nutrition in this season. The way I'm looking at it, a bunch of races which I was planning to do has also been cancelled, but I'm just training as if the race is there. Right? I might not have a race on that day, but I'm just trying to see what I could do on that day. As in, I might do my own long session on that day, equivalent to a race or something close to it. I still went for a ride today for 140 Ks and 10K run afterwards. If I had sort of decided, okay, the race is not there, maybe I should just train lesser. That is not the way to look at it. So for now, if that can't be only our motivation, right? So the motivation is to just stay healthy, stay fit, and keep at it. So that's very important, and I think it's very important to just stay that focus and keep doing it. Whatever those times are, we don't know when things will change, but keep at it. Dave Chatterjee has a question from a triathlon perspective. How often should we train? Twice a day? He quotes that obviously given a 9-to-5 jobs, it's not possible to, have necessary the time. They may have to juggle a few things, and sometimes 2 workouts in a day is necessary, especially if you're doing the half iron distance and the full iron distance. Yes, absolutely, that would be a necessity, and perfectly fine for you to do, 2 workouts. Even if it's not back to back, doing 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, if that suits your schedule. Absolutely, go for it. And at the same time, it doesn't have to be like done in a specific order unless your coach has told you it's a brick workout, you need to ride X and then run Y. In most cases, when 2 workouts are given, feel free to see what your personal schedule allows you. There are lots of times I've done the run a little earlier because the pool opens late, or maybe the run in a little later and the bike at a different time, right? So during the weekday, yes, there are lots of things happening. Feel free to move them around. Important thing is to get it done, and always talk to your coach if you need to shuffle them around too much, because there's a reason why certain workouts are structured on certain days. So just make sure that you're not doing back-to-back run days or back-to-back hard sessions, and there's a bit of a structure which your respective coach would have put through. So that's important. Biplab has a question on nutrition. What's the marathon nutrition strategy at the 30-kilometer mark? Because he sort of fades away at that point. Look, the key is pacing. Even before I come to nutrition, the key is pacing. So it's important that you've paced yourself well, because the real race really starts at the 25 or the 30K mark, right? So if we have ran out of our fitness, of whatever that fitness is on the race day for us, then it's important to first have a look at that to see that is if that is the case. If your pacing has been fine, I think I would definitely look at are there any deficits in nutrition? Deficits right from sort of making sure you're loading up well before the race, and right from the race start, are you taking all the things? Every 30 minutes, are you taking gels or whatever equivalent of your nutrition is? Are you taking water and electrolytes enough at every aid station so that you don't reach that point where nutrition maybe is slowing you down? Right, so that is one thing. It could be conditioning, it could be pacing, like I said. But if you feel it's nutrition, you have to make sure that looking at particular instance right from the beginning. Otherwise, it's very hard to overcome. If you've skipped a gel or so for an hour, eating 2 gels at one time or whatever, your body is going to take so long to get back. So let that not happen. If it's salt tablets, you need to take salt tablets. You might be someone who's losing a lot more salt. Main thing is, start from the beginning, not have a deficit. And how many gels or what you're eating? I mean, if somebody is 60 or 64 kilos, approximately that's the amount of grams you will need in an hour. That's a thumb rule. So if you're 70 or 75 kilos, are you getting close to that many grams of carbs in whatever form of gels, sugars, whatever the gels and the bars are? Are you getting enough in an hour? It's not to change just on race day, but are you training enough? Are you training to make sure that on race day you can just follow what you've been doing in training, including not only pacing, but the nutrition also? So have a look at, are you fueling yourself enough? Are you starting too fast? And are you sort of, mineral loading and carbo loading properly? And key thing is to, look after those things. Krishna has a question on swimming. What's a good stroke rate? Is it better to be able to glide more or work on stroke rate? Good question. Everybody has different formats of. Just give me 1 second. Lost the tab. Yeah, I'm back. So the question is on stroke rate. Let me repeat. What's a good stroke rate, and is it be able to glide more or work more on stroke rate and arm turnovers? Look, the important thing here is to have obviously a good stroke and finishing that stroke. What I mean by that is trying to increase your swim stroke and you're pulling your hand out halfway through is not going to make us faster. It's going to increase your stroke count, but it's not going to do anything, right? So the most important thing is to finish the stroke. While you're finishing the stroke, there might be a bit of a glide, but make sure there's a good fast rhythm so that you're not losing momentum of just waiting, finishing that stroke, and then again starting it out. Your body sort of goes into sort of, in patches of momentum. So make sure you keep it smooth. What's a good stroke rate? I think it's important for you to swim. Let's say it's a 25-meter or a 50-meter pool you're swimming on. Count your strokes and try to do a fast max efforts, a fast one, and see how much time you took and what stroke was there. Total both of them and try to see if you can beat that total. Like if you took 50 strokes to get to, or 60 strokes to get to 50 meters and you took 60 seconds, so that's 120. Now, by increasing your stroke rate, did you swim in 55 seconds, right? And can you keep up that stroke rate in a normal endurance sort of type of workouts and things? So, or at race pace. So that would be the right way to go. But important thing is to finish the stroke and definitely increase your arm turnover. How does one decide? Aarti has a question. How does one decide on selecting a specific IM race or a 70.3 race? What are the parameters to consider? Very common question, and one of the questions which every trainee asks me, and sometimes they ask me, what's a good race for me? What's an easy race for me, or what race should I choose, right? So I think it's important to keep multiple factors. I think one of the first things I personally look at is, personal schedule. Do I have enough time available to train? Does that month in the year suit a lot of things happening around me in life, whether it's family, work, travel, and everything else? Then the economics come into play. How far is it? And the logistics of ease of travel. How much does it cost for us really to get there? And Is it just a taxi ride from the airport, or do I have to rent a car and go 400 kilometers? I would like to keep it, especially if it's in the first race. Try to reduce all those factors and make it easier for you. Maybe choose a race in a place or a city or a country where you have maybe family or friends who could join you, who are already there. It saves you, obviously a place to stay, but at the same time, with so many things happening in the first race for you, or second or third, it doesn't matter. I think a support system helps. So keep all those factors in mind. And yes, look at the bike course, swim course, and run course, and see based on sort of your strengths. If swimming is not your strength, is it better to go for a swim which we know every year is going to be hard or choppy? Now, once again, it's weather can't be controlled on race day, but look, most swims are can range from being choppy to calm depending upon how the day goes. So other than, I don't think there are any races which are notoriously really bad from a swim perspective, but most of them are quite quite in the average middle range. So that's something to keep in mind. Windy, hilly, hot conditions. Look, in most races, it's going to get windy as the day goes. Yes, the hills are something which you can sort of prepare for. There is a hilly race 6 months before, 8 months before, 10 months before. So you train for it and keep that factor in mind. So no need to shy away from that if some of the other factors I spoke about are favorable, right? So those are some things to keep in mind. And but look, most races are going to get hot as the day goes, windy as the day goes, and swim is going to get a bit of a chop. So don't attribute too much maybe weightage on those things. Jayant Rao has a question on cycling. He does a lot of BRMs, and he finds it that in the last 50 to 60 kilometers, he struggles to sort of finish, and the legs losing power and put through. So he wants to know whether it's a mental thing or a physical problem. It could be a bit of both. I think if you come back to what I spoke about, the marathon nutrition part of it, I think important to make sure that you're not at a deficit. These 400, 600, 800 BRMs are a long races. So you need to make sure that you're eating properly, taking care of water, electrolytes, salts, gels, bars, bananas, or whatever solid foods. Especially in BRM, you do have the opportunity to eat some solid foods of whether it's bread, bananas, or whatever your thing could be. So that's very important to keep that in mind. And at the same time, we tend to lose our focus as the race finish sometimes comes closer. I mean, 50 to 60 kilometers is not close, but maybe if it's a bit of focus, just get yourself back onto that moment and try to break it down into just 5 kilometer chunks. And give yourself, if you've taken care of nutrition and pacing properly, you might not do the fastest part in that last 50 to 60, but at least you'll be able to hold on and not drop off too much. We all fade away, and little bit our pace of things may drop as the day progresses. But have a look at your nutrition, pacing. Sometimes caffeine helps. I sort of carry a small caffeine tablet if I feel sort of that part, whether it's focus or things. I tend to take that at the 150K mark in my bike leg in an Ironman most times, and that sort of just gives me a bit of maybe just refocus, a bit of energy. Or maybe it's just placebo where I feel I've taken caffeine and it's worked for me in few races, and I now do it in every race, and I've had sort of good success. So let's find out what those are and get back into trying some of these things in your next race. Abdi Rashid has a question. What was my first Ironman? My first Ironman was in April 2008, April 6th. Ironman Australia in Port Macquarie, close to Sydney. Some good memories. And in terms of times, I came very close to missing my swim cutoff. A few minutes before my bike cutoff, but managed to finish in about 15 hours and 52 minutes. Great day and very fulfilling, and definitely good memories. I've done that race a few times, but obviously the first one's very special, like for anybody else. And that was my first race. I don't have a name here. It says VV_running. So I'm not sure who that is. This is a question from the Instagram. How does weight matters in triathletes? I think weight matters in all sports, and especially in a demanding sort of endurance sport. So any excess weight is extra effort you are carrying. So plan to get rid of the extra weight and sort of find your ideal weight, which allows you to train for the race. But make sure that as you're dropping your weight, it does not affect your energy levels through the season, through your training. And also, you don't start losing power or strength or energy during your workouts, right? So, as much as staying light helps you in your running and even cycling and even to some degree swimming, but obviously, the running is where you will find the biggest thing where carrying any excess weight means a lot more load on your legs, more prone for injuries, and that's what it is. I mean, it can't be too less, but find your ideal weight. Most of the races I've ran in most of the last, I think the first sort of 20 Ironmans, the weight obviously was quite high when I started, and sort of settled down to about 64 in most of my races. That's what I've sort of 62, 63, 64 usually. But 2 weeks back, I did Ironman New Zealand, and when they weighed me before the race, they do before and after. I was 59.7, so that's a very low weight, and I wasn't trying to lose weight, and I wasn't. I knew I was starting to drop a bit because usually the last few weeks I go into a bit of a lockdown with no sugars and taking care of everything, and that usually gets my race weight to what it is. Is 62 low? Well, for my height, most people say yes, and I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm making sure that I'm not losing, as I said, my energy levels through the day. And am I losing power on the bike? Am I finding it hard to recover? All those factors are important in addition to that number at 60. But I had a good race in New Zealand. It's been 2 weeks. I had a good session today, so I've been back to training, and hopefully just keep that. So it does matter. So I think it's important to take care of your nutrition, of general diet of what you're eating. That's what has seen the drop off, and obviously the long workouts of run and cycling and swimming obviously helps to slowly bring your weight down. Alice D has a question on strength training. Do you strength train on the body weight, free weight, or fixed weights? I think in the context of triathlon, let me just take a minute. Strength training is important. It helps you stay injury free, and it also helps you, just to maintain good form, core conditioning, and all those elements. But the priority is still endurance training, which means we need to get better at cycling through cycling, not just doing weights at the gym, right? So those are important. So key thing, anything which helps you to start with. If you have not done any strength training, start with body weight, and then slowly move towards sort of the machines, which gives you a little more control on your form and technique before going to free weights. Free weights carrying dumbbells means hands can go either ways. But if there's a machine which you're just doing shoulder press or chest press on the machines, it at least helps to take care of the form to a certain degree. So it's important to maintain that. But once again, start with start with your body weight, basic push-ups, squats, lunges, core, and then graduate to that. Also, it adds another dimension and a factor that you need to go to a gym to do that. At home is a little more easier to maintain. So that's what I would do. But once again, key is to swim, bike, and run. If you have time, maybe stretch more, sleep more, and then maybe the gym, right? So that's the way. That is at least what I would recommend. But yes, if you do have the time, hit the gym or do these as often as necessary without impeding your next day's workout. So don't go do heavy lunges with weights and the next day morning run can't be what it is, right? So it becomes counterproductive. So just keep those elements in mind. Question from Pranay Soni. I've attempted open water swimming. Any tips on the 70.3 races, in particular Goa, but in general? I think the fact that you've attempted open water sighting means, the first thing is some people are afraid about the open water part. I think it's important to do some smaller swims in the presence of someone, whether it's your training buddies who are a lot proficient in swimming. Safety is very important, so make sure that happens. Doesn't matter how good a swimmer you are, you or anybody else, looking at never swim in the open water alone. So that's very important. So coming back on that, I think the important thing is to sight. In a swimming pool, there are lane ropes or a black line and it's easy to follow. So the important thing is to sight. And the other thing is to swim straight in addition to sighting. And that usually comes with making sure equal efforts on both ends, breathing on both sides as often as you can, rather than just breathing at one end where you might tend to just slightly deviate towards one part. So those are some important elements while you're swimming in the open water. The other thing is to also be able to breathe on the other side. If there is a lot of chop and the water falling from one side, you can just switch over to breathing on the other side. So just be comfortable of breathing on both sides. Equal effort on both hands. No need to constantly sight. You don't need to sight every 2 or 4 strokes. We don't get too far in 4 strokes. If you really see yourself swimming or anybody, you'll be surprised how less you go in 4 strokes, right? So you don't need to, you're not going to go that wrong in 4 strokes. So important is to sight, maybe 10, 12 strokes. And if you're finding people on the right and people on the left on the race day, in most cases, you're sort of in the right direction. And so I think use your judgment to see how often you want to, but just make sure if you find a pack of people and you can hang on to their feet, nothing like it. You can't draft in a swim. Can't do that in the bike because that's illegal, but on the swim you can draft. So find a pack and see if that's your pace and stick with it. That's something which will really help. Chetan Kantaria has a question on a bunch of things, a few related ones. First one is cycling. Which bike would you recommend for beginners? I think, look, if you're looking at triathlon, which I think it is based on your next set of questions, just buy any road bike you can afford, whether it's new or you're buying a second-hand one, it doesn't matter. It's coming back to your budgets, and just buy any road bike that you can afford, because that will be your biggest investment from an equipment perspective. Definitely don't go buy a hybrid, because you're going to outgrow that hybrid very soon, especially if you have intentions of getting into cycling or triathlon. So just start with any road bike. Any brand will do, to be very honest. It's important for us to just get better at cycling. And then in a couple of years, if you want to upgrade the bike, part of the bike, or the bike, it's buying a new bike itself, you can. Just start with any road bike. Follow-up questions related to that. What are the basic nutrient supplements for sort of a 9-to-5 professionals? I mean, look, the key is to eat a balanced diet of carbs, protein, vitamins, and good fats. I think the keyword supplement, the keyword is supplement, right? It needs to supplement what you cannot manage in your normal diet. So put the extra effort in, shopping right and cooking right and buying the right things and stocking and not stocking the things you should not be eating, and try to get that. And whatever else you can't, yes, you will have to depend upon supplements. If you're a vegetarian and find it hard to get enough protein, you might have to use a protein supplement, which is quite common, and you can definitely do that. But look, other supplements which you can explore is multivitamins, omega-3, and the other additions are good. But again, key focus, try to see what you can do by getting a good balanced diet all the way through. His last question, before going to Ironman, should we test ourselves with some other sport? Well, I think the key is, if you don't know swimming, I would say first thing is, get yourself, get some coaching and learn swimming the right way, instead of just trying on your own and sort of embedding a bit of bad habits in form and technique, which is very hard to unlearn later on. So if swimming is something you don't know, definitely take up swimming. Cycling and running are a little easier. You can easily add them on. But look, you can try a few short sprint triathlons, or you can do a few cycling events or your running events, and then come into triathlon. You can transition either way. But key thing, give yourself enough time, focus on fundamentals, and don't rush into it, thereby causing injuries. So just make sure that you take the time, build your good foundations, fundamentals, get some expert advice, coaching, whatever that is relevant and what you're looking for, and then slowly build into it, and setting some goals, mini goals, and then going after that. Rishabh has a few questions related to Ironman 70.3. The last year, the swim course was not good. Any special care this time? Look, the swim course, some of the beach swims, they are how it is. We did want to have 2 laps, allowing some of the, the profile of the crowd looking at it. I wanted to make sure that we give the best chance for everyone to sort of, get through the swim course and the swim cutoff times. But at the same time, the tides and the beach and formats also add to it, where there will be some shallow areas. This time we are trying to see what we could do, but for now, that's the course we have. We are exploring a few things, and if you are able to manage, you will hear it as the thing goes through. But we did have a race start delayed also, which added a bit to the tides. The tides are, every minute, every 5-10 minutes, the tides are changing. So is the depth of the water in various places. So we had a few things against us, but it is what it is. I've done a lot of other open water swims and triathlons and beach swims, and some of it is shallow, and we will have to just wade through the water. Will the bike course this year be a single loop? Nope. I think 90 kilometers of road closures and things are not going to be easy. So the bike course continues to be a 3-lap 30-kilometer course. We would love to do a 2-lap 45-kilometer course or a 1-lap 90 kilometers, but the current conditions, what we have in Goa or in most places in India, are going to be hard for us to do that. We are obviously looking for whatever upgrades we can do in Goa and also in future other races. But for now, that stays put. Avdut Shinde has a question. My age is 17, but I want to do Goa Ironman. Well, unfortunately, you need to be 18 as of the race day. So unless you're 18 as of 8th of November 2020, unfortunately, you'll have to wait the next year. Right, so those are the same rules applicable in any race in any country. So that holds true. But look, keep training, and if not this year, we'll see you next year. So keep training, and we shall see you very soon. Kastub Mulye has a question. What's your fastest Ironman times for swim, bike, run, and finish times? My fastest swim time is 1:07 a few years back. Done a few 1:08s and things, but that's been the fastest. The bike time is, my fastest bike time is 5 hours and 23 minutes. That's in 2017, I think. And my best run time is in the Ironman, the marathon time is 3 hours and 21 minutes, which was, I think, in definitely 4, 5, 6 years back. And my fastest Ironman time is 10 hours and 19 minutes. And obviously, none of these 3 fastest swim, individual, bike, and run were not in the fastest Ironman time. So if I can put all these 3 things together, I'll go really fast. But it's something which I'm working towards. It's not easy to put all of them together, but that's the goal. If I put all of them together, I'll get really fast time compared to 10 hours 19, which is my current fast time. So hopefully keep working on those. Just cognizant of time, I'll take a couple of more questions, and then also have a few chat ones I'll come back to. So thanks for the patience, folks. Saptarsi Bose has a question. He's 31, on the heavier side in terms of weight. He can run 5Ks. He's done 200K BRMs in about 10 hours. Is 70.3 Goa or any other race possible? Yes, I think the key part here is swimming. So if you can start focusing on swimming, and if you don't know swimming, take up time and learn swimming. Again, back to fundamentals, focus, and get some expert advice and coaching, because you want to learn it the right way, and give yourself enough time. I think that's very important. The fact that you've already done BRMs and 200 kilometers means we know you can cycle the distance. We just need to now make sure that you're able to run after that. And obviously run training helps, but the fact that your cycling is maybe a little more progressive than others who are getting into triathlon and never done those distances, and that's going to help you, right? So I mean, taking my example, I was never able to run well in an Ironman race or in training unless I got better at cycling, right? So because the cycling takes so much out of your legs, it doesn't matter how good of an individual run you can have in your own marathons, half marathons, or 10K, but running after a bike ride, I think it's critical to, so that will help. So definitely get started, and absolutely possible. There are people who have started with almost zero experience in all 3, but obviously in your case, you have a start. You have good in cycling. You can also, you're also into running. So get started. Arti has a question. What keeps you motivated to train every day despite not racing any specific race? For me, it's just staying fit and getting better every day at what I am in swim, bike, and run, and also in terms of my overall health and fitness. And that those are the key things which drives me. And obviously, every bit of training you do is a sort of my personal me time. You could be training with a group, but it's still something you like doing. And quite a bit of the endurance training is solo. You're on your own, whether it's an indoor bike ride for whatever 4 to 6 hours, or you're going on a ride or run or swims. There are going to be occasions where you're going to be training on your own. So that for me is like my own time. But more importantly, just staying fit, getting better, and obviously having some big long-term goals of getting my Ironman times better, or qualifying for things, getting into a top 10 in my age group. A lot of things driving me. It doesn't have to be an upcoming race. Like I said in the beginning of this conversation, quite a few races which I'd signed up for are cancelled, but I'm trying to keep my focus on just training as if the race was there, because it's the training which gets us fitter, not the race. So just the fact that there is no race on June 7th for me, Ironman Kings is cancelled or postponed, doesn't mean I can't get fitter or better, right? So it's the training which gets me better and fitter. I'll keep doing that, and I'll figure out what I could do to test myself now that the race is not there. We'll do some race simulations. One last question before I sort of try to wind down. What natural foods can be eaten during a race instead of gels and supplements? A question from Rahil Abubakar. Good question. I think the important thing here is before you look at natural foods or whatever, you have to see what is it that you can replicate on race day with respect to your ability to carry, your ability to process that in terms of consuming, and your body to hold, and obviously is that repeatable for you, right? So for example, bananas are great while you're doing an indoor bike training session for 4 to 6 hours. You can have a bunch of bananas next to you and eat, but how many could you really carry during a race? There is availability in the aid station, but is that the only thing? It's going to be that hard. So gels and bars are convenient, and again, play around with brands and flavors and find something which suits you, because you don't want to add another factor to that. When you say other natural foods, you can eat dates and some almonds and other things, especially in some of these races. It's something which you can play around with. Jaggery, I've sort of played around a bit, but what has really worked for me most of the times is that we even tried honey, a little bit of honey mixed up with water or whatever it is. If you can, that's a good, I mean, it's natural, but it's something which you can train on. But the important thing is to train on them week to week to week before experimenting, without experimenting on race day. So every long ride you go, like today I went and I use sometimes, I eat a Mars bars or some things in addition to gels, right? So I know it works for me. On race day, I can just try it. So play around with this, focus on training and using them in training, and then slowly graduate to, once you know it's working for you, then you just go and execute on race day. Just switching over to some chat questions, folks. Question from Sridhar on shuffling around workouts, right? We spoke about it. So he has another question about sequencing of training. What I was trying to tell Sridhar, and this was also a question earlier, was, well, there is swim, bike, and run. Does every workout needs to be done in that order? No. What I mean by that is, if your coach or tells you, given you a training program and it says, like example today, long ride followed by a 10K run, yes, you can't swap that around, right? But there are not going to be too many such true brick workouts which can't be broken up, right? If there is a swim and a run given on a particular day, at least when I plan my training for all the trainees and my athletes, there are not going to be too many brick workouts in a week. There could be one, at max two. Some weeks there might not even be a brick workout at all, right? So contrary to people thinking you have to do this in this sequence and you got to go run brick workouts all the time, it's not the case. If you train enough for swim, bike, and run, and do enough brick workouts to test yourself physically, mentally, nutrition wise, it will work, right? So coming back, if there is a bike and a run on a particular day and it's not a brick workout, you want to run in the morning, bike in the evening, absolutely not an issue. You want to run and then bike, yes. But was the run an easy run and the bike was a hard one? Maybe it works, right? So you're still not to make sure that you're able to execute the workout if it's an intense one and you have enough legs for it. You have taken care of nutrition, rest, and recovery between workouts or morning and evening, and making sure that through the day you've stayed well hydrated to do a workout in the evening. So keep all of those factors in mind while you're breaking it up, but definitely don't shuffle it too much to a point where you're trying to do the 7 days of workouts in the first 5 days because 2 days you can't train. That's not the idea. Coming back, last couple of questions. Hemant has a question. Whilst keeping within the heart rate zones during practice, is it okay to run, walk, run to maintain the heart rate zone? Or should one slow down to keep within the heart rate zone as in continue running? So the question here is, should he sort of walk for a few steps or a few seconds to bring his heart rate down and then go back to running, or just run at a particular thing so that the heart rate stays where it is? I would prefer the running part because I think the slowest run is still going to be faster than the fastest walk in most cases, right? So, and also you're going to be, running, and your endurance and your ability for the body to sort of condition and all that is going to be higher. Having said that, if your heart rate really hits too much of a thing, use the aid stations in a race. Walk through aid stations or walk through some key points of any milestones you have, whether it's every 2Ks or every 3Ks, but have a plan and then do a walk. But I think if you train ideally within your heart rate zones and put through, you can certainly do that. I did keep an eye on the heart rate in the IRONMAN New Zealand race, especially on the bike. I didn't look at my speed, not even my power or anything else, just cadence and heart rate. And as soon as a hill comes, effort is going to increase, your heart rate is going to go up. So you need to make sure that when you're cycling or running, your effort matches that part, right? So I would definitely encourage you to do a run, walk, run in case your weight is still a little bit on the higher side than what it can be, because that gives you a bit of a break for your legs. I think it'll help you on the longer sort of races. But if you can sort of run through and maintain the heart rate, nothing like it. Krishna has a question. There are several diets: keto, vegan, intermittent fasting. Do we need to change for endurance training? Any particular diet that works better? Do we need to follow balance through the year with no cheat days? Okay. Look, at my end, I have tried, not vegan. Vegan I can't do, but I've done a bit of keto for a while. I think I remember while we were putting up the race in Goa last year, I could hardly train, but I thought I should do something to keep my focus. And I did go keto for a few months because I was in training. And I didn't want to put on weight because of the entire schedule, and it was quite hectic. So I chose to say, let me really focus on my eating. I am, but let me take it to the next level. I tried keto. It sort of helped me keep my weight in check. It's a lot of effort to go on these diets. So for me, what has worked well is, sounds simple, but maybe, something for us to focus on. Stay balanced. But I've taken a few things from each of these things. Like if you take a keto diet, that's something which means, high protein, high fat, low carb, or almost no carb, right? So for me, keeping the carbs down and increasing on good fats and protein has always worked, right? Do I eat a bit of carbs? I have needed the carbs to make sure that I have the energy to sustain through the day and for big workouts. If I had trained with this intensity, what I've done for the last 2 to 3 months on keto, there are others who have done it. I don't know how it would have done, but it would have been a lot of experimenting, a lot of effort for me. So at my end, I make sure of, getting enough protein in every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. There needs to be some level of protein in that. It can't be I eat 4 eggs for breakfast and that's my protein for the day. No. Every plate of meal, whatever you're eating, have a look. Is there protein? Okay. Is there any good fats? Is there enough vitamins? Carbs, they will always come in. You don't even have to work too hard to get carbs into your meal. It will make it in, but go through this sort of thing and plan well in advance to buy the right things, cook the right things, and put through, right? What I've seen is a high protein sort of, and keeping a check on carbs and sugar has obviously worked well for me and for most endurance athletes. That works. Uh, do we need to follow balance throughout the year with no cheat days? What I do, for example, I had a great workout today morning, 145K ride, 11K brick run, feels good. I've cooked my own dessert. It's a bit of cheesecake. I've cooked myself. I'm not, I can control whether sugar goes into it, how much sugar goes into it, if at all it does, and things. I've cooked it. I'm going to eat that now. And that's my reward. You want to call it a cheat day? Well, it is. But I've had a good week. I've done everything what I wanted to this week. And food is a reward for me. So I eat it. Does it make any big difference to my weight for the next week, month? No, because in general, I've taken care of a lot of other things. So usually eating one piece of cake or whatever in a week is never going to affect your weight or anything else. It's have a look at your other 20 meals, not the 21st meal or the 21st, like 3 meals, 7 days a week. There are lots of things we can go look at. But yes, food is a reward. I like to reward myself, and I definitely use that to keep myself going. And it's okay to eat as long as it's in moderation and you're eating at your terms, and not because you felt like eating times. So hopefully that helps. But all through the year, maintaining it is good, because once it's very hard to lose weight. So don't add on 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kilos just after the race, going off and not training or just going there because you worked so hard to get to some stage. Yes, it takes effort to stay there, but it takes a lot more effort to go up and then come down again. I have been through, my 95 kilos is years back, but I've come to 72, gone back to 86, and then 72. And then once I got to 68, 66, that's when I had to make a lot of changes, and that stayed there. So definitely that. That is it. One last question. No sugar diet. It's not really a no sugar diet, but I go off whatever it is, sweets and treats and things other than gels and things which are needed in training. Yes, I continue to use those, but I stay away from maybe cakes, or cakes is the only dessert which I sort of like. I try to do if I can cook my own. Usually last 3 to 4 weeks before a race, I clamp down quite heavily on this, and that gets my weight to what I want to. Also, because you start tapering a bit in the last 10 days or 12 days before an Ironman race or the week, you are not training as much as you used to. So it also means it's harder to maintain the weight. You might, if you're keeping on eating what you used to eat and training less, the maths will add up and you'll go up, and the sugar doesn't help. So that's all I do. And so yeah, look, staying away from sugar for a certain period just gets me to focus and zero in on the race day. So I do that. It obviously helps, but it also gets me to focus on a lot of things which needs to go well on race day. So just keeping my focus in the last 3 weeks on everything else helps. Sugar just being one of them. Good. Thank you so much, folks. I hope I've answered all your questions, or at least the questions which I answered was helpful. Thanks for taking the time. Please keep those questions coming up either on the Instagram or mailing me or on the forms which we have submitted. There are still a bunch of questions I need to get to. I will in the subsequent days. I will do a sort of a session on my own and put out the video out there. So once again, thanks. Signing off. You have a good day ahead. And once again, Tuesday is the registration opening. Keep an eye on it and pass the word around. And thank you once again.